Saturday mornings were my sanctuary. That quiet hour before the rest of the world stirred was sacred, just me, a cup of black coffee, and our dog Max waiting by the door with his leash in his mouth like he knew it was our time. It was the kind of peace you learn to cherish after years of chasing deadlines and dodging traffic. And up until recently, it was one of the last things in my life that felt untouched. Lauren was still upstairs. I could hear the low hum of the hairdryer as I wandered into the kitchen to grab my jacket. That's when I noticed the family laptop sitting open on the counter. It wasn't unusual. Lauren used it sometimes for Pinterest boards or email. But what caught my eye was a blinking browser tab labeled Private Chat, Vex Room. Not something either of us typically used. Curiosity nudged me. I hesitated, one hand on the laptop, the other still holding Max's leash. I told myself I wasn't snooping, I was just checking. We trusted each other, right? The tab opened to a sleek, dark-themed messaging app I'd never seen. A user named Chad Knights had sent several messages. The last one contained a photo. And there she was. Lauren, in a fitted black dress with a low neckline, sitting on a velvet bar stool in what looked like a hotel lounge. Her legs crossed, her lips curved in a flirty smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. The lighting was dim but clear enough. A man's hand, definitely male, with a chunky watch and well-groomed knuckles, rested on her knee. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my breath caught in my throat. My brain scrambled for rationalizations. Maybe it's old. Maybe it's part of a bachelorette party. Maybe it's photoshopped. But nothing stuck. My stomach was already sinking, and that feeling doesn't lie. The chat log wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. Can't stop thinking about the other night, one message read. Another, timestamped just the day before, said, same place tonight? You wear that dress, I'll bring the wine, winking face. Before I could click to scroll up, I heard the floor creak upstairs. Lauren. I shut the laptop halfway out of instinct, then changed my mind and left it open. She came down wearing a sweatshirt and yoga leggings, her hair still damp, no makeup. She looked tired. Normal. But that photo was now burned into my brain. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. You left your laptop open. She glanced over and froze. It took less than 2 seconds for her to cross the kitchen. She didn't ask what I saw. She didn't even fake confusion. Just slammed the laptop shut like it was on fire. Why were you on my laptop? She snapped. It was already open, I said, still holding Max's leash. Lauren, who's Chad? Her expression shifted instantly from panic to indignation. Oh my God, Trevor. Are you serious? You're checking my messages now. I wasn't checking anything. You had to click on something, didn't you? You don't just accidentally land on a private chat. I didn't answer right away. Her reaction said more than any **T ever could. I saw a photo, I said. It didn't look like nothing. She rolled her eyes, but the tension in her jaw betrayed her. That was months ago. It's an old friend. It was a joke. A joke? Yes. From college. We used to send stupid messages to mess with each other. You know, sarcasm? Banter? Look, it's not a big deal. I stared at her. He said he couldn't stop thinking about the other night. She snatched the laptop and started deleting messages. Click. 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 Jesus, Trevor, this is insane. I can't even have friends now? I can't even talk to people without being accused of something? I didn't accuse you of anything. I just asked. You're implying. That's the same thing. And you had no right to go through my stuff. That's a breach of trust. I felt like I'd stepped into a parallel universe. Lauren, you're the one with a guy's hand on your knee in some bar. How's that not a breach? That's from forever ago. You're making this into something it's not. Do you seriously think I'm cheating on you? I didn't answer. Because for the first time in 8 years, I wasn't sure what to believe. She shook her head in disbelief, stormed past me, and disappeared into the bathroom. I stood in the kitchen, stunned by how quickly the focus had shifted from the image of her with another man to me being the one in the wrong. The guilt was clear, but she wore deflection like armor. The rest of the morning was a blur. She didn't apologize. She didn't offer an explanation. Instead, she went back upstairs, changed into a lavender yoga set, and grabbed her mat. I'm going to yoga, she said, her voice flat. Okay, I replied, still unsure whether to push the conversation or let it breathe. I need space, she added. Don't text me, I'm turning my phone off. I need to clear my head. That's when I knew. Lauren never turned her phone off. She brought it to bed, to the bathroom, to the dinner table. It was practically a limb. And yoga? She hadn't mentioned yoga in over a year. Now suddenly it was her safe space? Sure, I said. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just let her walk out. The door shut behind her, and the silence that followed was deafening. I sat on the couch, Max resting his head on my lap as I tried to replay what just happened. What I saw. What she said. What she didn't say. The denial, the defensiveness, the way she nuked the evidence without hesitation. All of it screamed one thing: guilt? And yet, some part of me still wanted to be wrong. I wanted it to be a misunderstanding, a one-off, a nothing moment caught out of context. But deep down, I knew better. You don't panic delete chats with old college friends unless you're hiding something. You don't storm off to yoga and go dark unless you want time to clean up a mess. I sat there for a long time, not moving. Just listening to the ticking of the clock and the distant hum of a neighbor's lawnmower. I didn't even take Max out. He didn't seem to mind. Eventually, I opened my own laptop and started writing everything down: what I saw, what she said, the exact timestamps. It wasn't about being paranoid. It was about clarity. Because in that moment, I knew something had changed. And once you see the crack, the rest of the facade starts to crumble. She thought she ended the conversation by closing the laptop. She had no idea it was just the beginning. Lauren didn't come home until after dark. Max and I were still on the couch when I heard the front door open. She walked in wearing that same lavender yoga set, her hair up in a messy bun, a reusable water bottle tucked under her arm. There was no yoga mat in sight. She barely looked at me as she walked past. Class ran late, she said flatly, then disappeared upstairs. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The silence between us had already become its own language. Later that night, when I passed the bathroom, I heard the muffled sound of her voice. She was on a call, but not through the phone. It was FaceTime on her iPad. I leaned closer. The tone wasn't angry or neutral. It was soft. Laughing. Flirty. When I walked into the bedroom 10 minutes later, she was already under the covers, pretending to sleep. The iPad was face down on the nightstand, screen still warm. I laid down beside her and stared at the ceiling, wondering how long I'd been this blind. Over the next few days, the changes I'd overlooked suddenly stood out like neon signs. It wasn't just one thing, it was the accumulation of details, each one insignificant on its own but undeniable as a pattern. The dots were finally connecting, and the picture they painted was anything but innocent. She'd stopped drinking coffee. That may sound minor, but it was her ritual. Every morning for the past 7 years, we'd shared a pot. She'd take hers with a splash of oat milk and cinnamon. Then, one morning 2 months ago, she said it made her jittery. She switched to tea. I didn't think much of it at the time. People change tastes. But then came the new perfume. She used to hate strong scents, said they gave her migraines. But suddenly, she was wearing something floral and heavy. I noticed it on her scarf once and asked about it. She brushed it off. A friend gave me a sample. I kinda like it now. She wore it all the time. Even when she was just running errands. Then came the phone. It followed her everywhere. Into the bathroom, into the shower, tucked under her pillow at night. She started charging it in the bathroom, something she never did before. The passcode changed. Notifications were silenced. Once I walked into the room and caught her hastily swiping away a message, just a flash of a name. See, that was all I saw. Work email, she said without missing a beat. She had an answer for everything. A little too ready, a little too rehearsed. Our conversations had hollowed out. We used to talk about everything, what we'd do with a lottery win, the weird dreams we had, whether we should move to Colorado like we'd once planned. Now it was all surface level. Work. Groceries. Weather. She barely asked about my day. When I did talk, she looked like she was waiting for me to stop. The affection was gone, too. No hand on my shoulder in the kitchen. No goodnight kiss. Just polite distance. Then came the pregnancy. She told me she was pregnant a month ago. No ceremony, no test shown. Just told me over dinner in the most casual tone, like she was announcing she needed new shoes. I was stunned, overjoyed, and terrified at once, but she waved off my questions. I'm only a few weeks along, she said. We'll go to the doctor next month. No big rush. When I offered to schedule the appointment, she said she already had. But every time it came up, there was some excuse. The doctor had to reschedule. She wasn't feeling well. Her work meeting ran late. She said she was managing it on her own. Let me handle it, she insisted. I didn't press. I trusted her. God, I wish I hadn't. Because even now, with everything I knew or suspected, I still wanted to believe it wasn't what it looked like. That maybe there was an explanation. That maybe she was just overwhelmed, distant, stressed. That the photo from Chad was a misunderstanding. That her behavior was a phase. But deep down I knew. You don't hide pregnancies from your husband. You don't hide iPads. You don't erase chats and then vanish to imaginary yoga classes with your phone turned off. One morning, while she was in the shower, I walked past the laundry room and saw something sticking out of her gym bag. It was a receipt, folded but not torn. I opened it. A bar in downtown Austin. 2 Moscow mules, 1 whiskey sour, 1 plate of fries. Timestamped the same evening as one of her supposed yoga classes. Paid in cash. I stood there, holding the receipt like it was a piece of glass, wondering how many lies fit into a single night. That evening, I tried talking to her again. "I saw a receipt in your bag," I said, keeping my tone even. "From the bar. Wednesday night." She blinked, then smiled too quickly. "Oh, that? I grabbed drinks with Marissa after yoga. It was last minute. You told me yoga ended late and you were too tired to talk." "Well, yeah, I was tired after the bar." She wasn't even trying. "You paid in cash." She shrugged. "Marissa didn't have change for her cocktail. I covered it." "What is this, an interrogation?" I stared at her. "Do you really expect me to believe this?" She crossed her arms. "Trevor, if you're going to start going through my stuff and questioning everything I do, maybe you should ask yourself what kind of husband you are." I'm exhausted. And just like that, the conversation ended. That night, I stayed in the guest room. I didn't tell her. I just waited until she fell asleep and slipped out. Max followed me like he knew I needed the space. I sat in the dark for hours, trying to decide what was worse, the lies or the fact that she had no guilt left. I scrolled back through old messages, photos, calendar events. I tried to pinpoint the moment she changed. Was it the business trip she took in February? The one she extended by 2 days, saying she had a spa voucher to use? Was it when she stopped asking about my parents? When she started sleeping in on weekends without cuddling into me first? It was death by 1,000 cuts. And somehow I hadn't bled until now. I opened our shared calendar and cross-referenced the days she claimed she had pregnancy appointments. Not a single one matched with a real clinic location. One didn't even exist. I Googled it twice. She was never pregnant. That was the hardest part to swallow. The rest I could almost rationalize. People fall out of love. They cheat. It's ugly, but it happens. But to fake a pregnancy, to use it like a leash to keep me around, that was something else. That was cruel. I sat on the floor beside Max, the dog resting his chin on my knee like he sensed I needed something steady. "I don't know what to do, buddy," I whispered. Max just looked up at me with those soft eyes. Loyal. Honest. Present. Everything Lauren used to be. 3 days after the laptop incident, the final nail arrived, not with a bang, but with the soft ding of an email notification. It was a Tuesday morning. I had just gotten back from a walk with Max and was going through my inbox while sipping coffee. Bills, ads, a work message, and then a strange email. No subject. No sender name. Just a single word in the address, truthwatcher94@protonmail.com. I almost ignored it. Almost. Inside, there were no words, just a single video file and a short sentence, "You deserve to know." I hesitated before clicking play, my heart already pounding. The file loaded slowly, and for a second I wondered if it was spam or a scam. But when the video began, my breath caught in my throat. It was grainy surveillance footage, black and white, timestamped. The camera was mounted in the corner of a sleek bar in Austin, somewhere I didn't recognize immediately. The image showed a woman walking in through the main doors, adjusting her hair. Lauren. She was wearing that same black dress from the photo I'd seen on the laptop, the one she claimed was a dumb joke from college. She wasn't alone. A tall man in a blazer, broad-shouldered, confident, greeted her at the door with a kiss. Not on the cheek. On the lips. They walked toward a booth in the back, hand in hand. The footage showed them sitting close, too close. His arm went around her shoulder. Her hand slid onto his knee. They ordered drinks. They laughed. They leaned in. She kissed him again, slow and deliberate. Then came the part that made my blood run cold. Roughly 20 minutes into the video, Lauren stood up, whispered something into the man's ear, and they walked off screen. A second camera picked them up as they ascended a short staircase in the back of the bar toward what looked like a hallway of rooms. The video cut out just as the door shut behind them. I sat there frozen, coffee cooling beside me, unable to move. I replayed the video. Again. And again. Same outcome. Same betrayal. The timestamp on the footage was clear, 2 Fridays ago. The night she said she was at her friend Anna's house working on a pregnancy photo project. The irony was suffocating. She had used a fake pregnancy as a shield while sneaking off to hook up with another man. I checked the video's metadata. The uploader was listed as chad.knights@hotmail.com. There it was. Chad. The same name from the chat. The man in the video was him. He had sent this to me. Why? To gloat? To expose her? Or just to watch the aftermath? I stared at the screen for a long time before saving the file to a secure drive and emailing it to myself. Then I screenshot every keyframe, her walking in, the kiss, the bar timestamp, the staircase. I opened a new folder labeled proof and filled it with each image. There was no more doubt. No more maybe. No more benefit of the doubt or manufactured excuses. She lied. She had looked me in the eyes, said she loved me, said she was carrying our child, all while planning nights like this. The anger didn't come immediately. What came first was something colder. Numbness. A kind of calm detachment that didn't feel like me. My mind shifted into planning mode. I didn't yell. I didn't text her. I didn't call. Instead, I sat back and thought, this ends now. I backed up every message, every appointment cancellation she'd made, and every email we'd exchanged about the pregnancy. I called a friend of mine, Derek, who worked in IT security, and asked if he could do a quick favor, verify the video's authenticity, check the metadata. He called me back an hour later. It's clean, he said. No signs of editing. The metadata checks out too. The footage is real. I thanked him and hung up, then sat in the silence of our home, staring at the walls we painted together, the photo albums she'd carefully curated, the nursery Pinterest board we'd started building months ago. All of it was fake. Built on lies. That evening, I didn't mention the video. I watched her come home in her usual routine, dropping her gym bag, kissing Max absent-mindedly, pulling leftovers from the fridge. She made small talk about her yoga class. Asked if I wanted to watch something. Smiled like everything was fine. I nodded. Said I was tired. I wasn't tired. I was done. She went to bed early. I stayed up late, typing, compiling, building a folder that would speak louder than words. A digital dossier of betrayal. The next morning, I contacted an attorney. I'd never needed one before. His office was sharp and quiet, the kind of place that smelled like expensive wood and quiet decisions. I met with him at 10 a.m., brought the flash drive, the metadata, the *TS, and a list of dates and names. He didn't say much as he clicked through everything. When the video ended, he leaned back in his chair. You've done your homework, he said. I nodded. I need out. But clean. No drama. No public blow-up. He smiled slightly. You'll get that. And we'll make sure she doesn't walk away pretending she was the victim. By noon, we had a strategy. Step 1. Gather remaining proof, including medical records showing there was never a prenatal appointment. Step 2. Have her served quietly, once all the paperwork was airtight. Step 3. Lock her out. That afternoon, I pulled the remaining threads. I called the clinic Lauren claimed she'd visited. I had the name because she'd mentioned it in passing once, bragging about how progressive they were. I asked the receptionist if Lauren Miller had been in for a prenatal appointment in the last 60 days. A pause. I'm sorry, she said. There's no record of any appointments under that name. I thanked her and hung up, then sat down and let the weight of it settle. There was no baby. There never was. That night, I watched her sleep. Curled under the comforter, her breathing slow and steady. I wondered what went through her head, if she even felt guilty. If she even remembered who I was anymore. The next morning, I called a locksmith. Changed the locks while she was at yoga. Bagged her belongings, set aside the ones she'd likely fight for, her clothes, her planner, her old journals, and boxed everything else. I didn't throw anything out. I wasn't angry. I was precise. When she returned home later that day, I was sitting on the porch. Max beside me. Her car pulled into the driveway, and for the first time, I didn't feel anything. No dread. No heartbreak. Just resolve. She stepped out of the car and frowned. Why is the key not working? I stood. We need to talk. We need to talk. I said it calmly, standing just inside the threshold of our front door, while Lauren jiggled her keys in disbelief. She looked from the lock to me, her brow furrowed like this was some inconvenient malfunction. Not the line in the sand it actually was. What happened to the lock? She asked, her voice pitching with confusion and irritation. Why won't my key work? I had it changed this morning, I replied, flat, emotionless. Her jaw tightened. Are you serious right now? I'm completely serious, I said. We're done, Lauren. This marriage, it's over. The silence that followed was staggering. She blinked like she misheard me, then scoffed. Is this about that stupid chat from the laptop again? Trevor, we talked about this. No. I cut her off. We didn't talk. You deflected. You gaslit me. And I let it go. But I know now. I've seen the video, Lauren. Her face changed instantly, like a light dimming. She took a step back, then forward again, unsure where to stand. Her voice dropped. What video? Don't play dumb, I said. You know exactly which one. The bar in Austin. You and Chad. You kissed him. You sat on his lap. Then you disappeared into the hallway upstairs with him. You lied to my face, told me you were working on a pregnancy photo project with Anna. You were never with Anna. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. I also called the clinic you said you'd been seeing, I continued. No record of your name. No appointments. No ultrasound. No pregnancy. Her hand flew to her chest, whether in defense or habit. I couldn't tell. Trevor, just let me explain. I don't need an explanation, I said. I have the proof. Everything. Metadata. Footage. *TS. Even medical verification. There's nothing left to explain. She looked around the neighborhood like someone might come rushing to her rescue. But the street was still. Just the wind, the leaves, and her secrets unraveling in the open. I want you to leave, I said. Your stuff is boxed inside. I've labeled everything that's yours. My lawyer has already filed the divorce paperwork. You'll get a call. She stepped closer, her voice cracking. Trevor, please, can we just talk? This is all happening too fast. You're blowing this way out of... I'm not blowing anything out of proportion, I snapped, my voice sharpening. You cheated on me. You lied about a pregnancy. You erased evidence, avoided questions, and spun this narrative where I'm the bad guy for noticing. That's manipulation, Lauren. And I'm done being manipulated. She looked stunned. Not because she didn't deserve this, but because she hadn't expected me to follow through. She thought I'd stew, break down, cry, that I'd need her. But I didn't. I needed peace, and that meant letting go. Is this really it? She asked, quieter now. This is it. But what about the life we built? What about everything we've been through? You should have thought about that before walking into a hotel room with another man, I said. Whatever we had died the moment you decided to betray me. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't soften. Couldn't. This wasn't the time to feel sympathy for someone who had *P***********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************�e her voice low. At least until I can figure out what the hell just happened. I suggest you do, I said. Because the next time you try to come back here, I'll have the police escort you off the property. She took her boxed belongings, 3 modest cardboard containers I'd stacked by the entry, and placed them in the trunk of her car. Then she stood on the lawn for a full minute, like she was hoping I'd chase her, apologize, beg her to stay. I didn't. I just closed the door. The sound of the lock clicking was the most satisfying sound I'd heard in months. Inside, Max sat on the rug by the window, tail thumping once like he knew things had changed for good. I leaned down, scratched behind his ears, and whispered, "It's just us now, buddy." That night, I slept in the bed alone for the first time in years. No tossing and turning. No forced small talk under the covers. Just silence, and somehow it felt like healing. Over the next 2 days, I finalized every remaining step. I met with my attorney and reviewed every clause in the divorce packet. There were digital logs proving infidelity, medical records showing no pregnancy, even emails between Lauren and Chad with damning subject lines and suggestive content, courtesy of her carelessness in syncing devices. I provided everything. The lawyer was impressed. "Most people don't come in this prepared," he said. "Most people don't get betrayed like this," I replied. We filed. We sent the formal notice to her temporary address. The state required a 60-day window, but everything else was in motion. I instructed the lawyer to request no alimony and a full claim on the house and shared assets due to marital misconduct. We had no kids, no joint businesses. It was straightforward and damning. In the following week, I cut off every avenue of communication. I blocked her number, blocked her email, muted all social media channels. I didn't want to see her name. I didn't want to hear her voice. If she wanted to communicate, she could do it through legal channels. And she did. She tried texting from different numbers. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Can we please talk?" She emailed from a backup Gmail. It wasn't what it looked like. It was just one night. I panicked. You didn't deserve this. She was right. I didn't. But she didn't get to be the one who decided that now. I forwarded every message to my lawyer, who confirmed we were within bounds. He advised I maintain zero contact and let the process play out. I agreed. Still, part of me wanted to know what she was doing. If Chad was still in the picture. If the man who ruined our marriage had even stuck around. But I didn't check. I refused. That wasn't healing, that was relapsing. On day 10, a mutual friend, one of the few who hadn't picked sides, reached out. Just wanted you to know, she said carefully, Lauren's in a bad place. Chad ghosted her. Her parents aren't speaking to her. She lost 2 sponsorships from her blog already. She's spiraling. I thanked her but asked her not to update me again. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for freedom. There was a part of me, sure, that wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. To suffer the consequences. But I didn't need to witness it. The fallout didn't need to be my burden. I had my own life to rebuild. In the quiet that followed, I started reclaiming the spaces in the house that used to feel foreign. The bedroom was no longer shared. The kitchen didn't have passive-aggressive notes on oat milk or gluten-free snacks. Her clothes were gone. Her voice absent. Her perfume no longer lingered on the pillows. It wasn't peace yet, but it was the beginning of it. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I breathed without flinching. The fallout came fast. I expected it to unfold quietly, a slow unraveling in the shadows. But the truth didn't whisper, it roared. Lauren's life, which she'd curated with such meticulous care, began to implode within a week of the divorce papers hitting her inbox. It wasn't just the legal notice that undid her. It was what came with it, evidence. The kind that couldn't be ignored, denied, or talked around. Her lies were no longer buried in private silence. They were now wrapped in digital proof, sent through an attorney's letterhead and filed with the county. At first, I didn't pay attention. I muted every social platform, blocked her email, and asked mutual friends not to bring her up. But the world has a way of delivering the news you're trying to avoid. On a Monday morning, a coworker stopped by my office holding her phone like it contained something contagious. Is this her? She asked, turning the screen toward me. It was Lauren's Instagram page. Or what used to be. The account was still live, but her follower count had dropped by thousands overnight. All comments on her last 3 posts had been disabled. Her captions, once full of self-help mantras and motivational hashtags, had been replaced with vague apologies and nervous ambiguity. Hi everyone, one post read. I know there's a lot of rumors going around. I just want to say, please don't believe everything you hear. I didn't need to click to know what sparked the storm. Apparently, the footage Chad had sent me wasn't just for me. He had posted a still image of them at the bar, Lauren on his lap, his hand tracing her thigh on one of his burner accounts. Captioned with a single line, when you find out your pregnant, mindfulness coach is married. He didn't tag her directly, but it didn't matter. Enough people recognized her. Her followers, many of whom had followed her for pregnancy wellness tips and relationship advice, started asking questions. Then came the screen recordings, reposts, and reaction threads. Reddit got a hold of it next. One of the posts was titled, Influencer fakes pregnancy to hide affair, is this real? I wish it weren't. Comments flooded in. Some questioned the authenticity, but most were brutal. Her quotes were dissected, her podcast episodes ridiculed. Every vaguely spiritual line she'd uttered about honesty and alignment became a punchline. Then came the sponsors. Lauren had built a modest income through her lifestyle brand, a mix of sponsorships, affiliate links, and virtual workshops. She used to spend hours each week recording content, coaching followers through breathing techniques, journaling prompts, prenatal bonding mantras. I used to listen from the other room, amazed at how she could conjure so much certainty out of so much personal chaos. But that illusion cracked the moment receipts went public. 2 companies issued public statements distancing themselves from her. One even referenced a violation of ethical alignment. Another simply said, "We are no longer affiliated with Lauren Miller or her brand." By Thursday, her account had gone dark. No new posts. Stories deleted. No replies to DMs. Just digital silence. I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. But I won't lie, I felt something like gravity shifting. Justice, maybe. Then came the texts. First from her mom. Unexpected. Trevor, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Please know this isn't a reflection of you. I didn't respond. Then from her sister, Alyssa. We're all shocked. I'm so embarrassed. She's not staying with us anymore. That one hit me harder than I expected. Lauren used to brag about how close she and Alyssa were, how they always had each other's backs. Now even that bridge was burned. By the end of the week, I heard, through a friend of a friend, that she'd been let go from her part-time content consultant job at a startup. Something about misalignment of personal values. The polite way of saying her brand had become toxic. Her name, once lightly floated in local wellness circles, was now whispered only in warning. Chad, as it turned out, disappeared almost instantly. Blocked her, changed numbers, wiped his profiles. From what I gathered, he hadn't told her he was going to post the photo publicly. Maybe it was retaliation. Maybe she'd promised him things she never intended to deliver. Maybe he just enjoyed the chaos. Either way, he was gone, and she was alone. I hadn't expected her to fall so far, so fast. I thought she'd land on her feet, maybe even spin the narrative. But Lauren had built her identity on trust, and once that shattered, she had nothing solid to stand on. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. The envelope was smudged like it had been carried around too long. Inside was a single page, filled edge to edge in Lauren's familiar cursive. Trevor, I don't expect you to read this, and I understand if you burn it. But I needed to say something, not because I think it'll fix anything, but because the silence between us is too loud. I'm sorry. Not the performative kind. Not the kind that comes with qualifiers. Just, I'm sorry. I hurt you. I betrayed you. And I disrespected every promise we ever made. I know you've seen everything now. The footage. The messages. The truth. I can't undo it. And I can't blame it on stress or confusion or loneliness, though God knows I tried to rationalize it that way. I was selfish. I got caught up in a version of myself I wanted to be. Someone admired, desired. And in chasing that version, I destroyed the one person who actually loved me for who I was, not who I pretended to be. You deserved better. You always did. I don't know what comes next for me. I've lost more than I thought was possible to lose in a matter of days. My job, my audience, my dignity. Chad ghosted me before I could even ask why he posted the video. I've become a cautionary tale. But I guess I just wanted you to know. None of this was your fault. You weren't controlling. You weren't distant. You were kind, and loyal, and real. I see that now, too late. I won't contact you again. I respect your silence. I respect your decision. But if there's a part of you that wonders whether I ever cared, the answer is yes. I just didn't care the right way. Or enough. Or in time. Lauren. I folded the letter and put it away in a drawer I didn't use often. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there for a long time, staring at her handwriting, wondering how a person could lose themselves so completely. It would have been easier if she was a monster. But she wasn't. She was broken, just like the rest of us. But where most people seek repair, she'd reached for destruction. And now she was left with the rubble. I didn't hate her. Not anymore. Pitted her. Because at least I had something left to rebuild. She had nothing but an empty inbox and the echo of the life she threw away. The weeks after Lauren's letter passed in a strange sort of stillness. I expected the hurt to come in waves. Anger, heartbreak, regret. But instead, it was like stepping out into fresh air after years inside a stuffy room. Her silence, finally, felt like a kindness. I took the time to rebuild not just routines or habits, but myself. I sold the house. Too many echoes in the walls. Every corner held a version of us that didn't exist anymore, so I let it go. I moved north to Seattle, where the rain gave me cover to disappear and reemerge quietly. No one knew me there, and that anonymity was healing in a way I didn't expect. I started over professionally, too. I sold my half of the marketing agency I'd co-founded and joined a small educational tech company. Simpler. More grounded. It gave me purpose without demanding everything. And then, slowly, something unexpected happened. I met Haley. She was a design instructor at a community workshop I joined to relearn how to be social. We were both quiet at first. She had her own scars, her own betrayal story that mirrored mine in uncomfortable ways. But we didn't try to fix each other. We just listened. And then one day we started laughing again. Not the performative kind. The real kind. There were no games between us. No curated version of perfection. Just two people who had been burned and weren't afraid to admit it. Our connection wasn't built on fantasy. It was built on morning coffees, shared playlists, quiet walks. The ordinary moments I once thought meant little now felt like everything. I didn't look for the one anymore. I looked for peace. And Haley gave me that. 3 years later, we got married. Not in some grand ceremony, but in a backyard garden with 30 people and a playlist of songs we both loved. No speeches, no spectacle, just honesty. Haley wore a simple dress. I wore a borrowed tie. We laughed during the vows. I cried a little during the toasts. It was imperfect, and that made it perfect. Our home in Seattle is small, filled with second-hand furniture and first-choice peace. We talk about the future, but we don't obsess over it. We don't chase milestones. We just try to show up every day for each other. Sometimes I still get asked about Lauren. People who knew the old story, who remember the fallout. But I don't follow her. I don't check her socials. I don't ask around. Not out of bitterness. But because that chapter is closed. She was a turning point, not an end point. What happened hurt, but it also taught me how to see people clearly, including myself. It reminded me of my worth. Of the difference between being needed and being valued. The man I was when I met Lauren was hopeful but naive. The man I became after her? Wiser. Calmer. Whole. And if you're wondering whether healing is possible, whether peace exists after betrayal, let me say this. It does. But not in revenge. Not in watching someone else fall. It exists in choosing yourself. And choosing someone who sees you not as a projection or a placeholder, but as a person worth loving, scars and all. That's what I have now. And that's more than enough.